Take a little trip with me and hopefully you can see how the hood, suburbs, and Main Street are all connected. Enough respect, we network across the globe, cause it's a global market in case you didn't know. And since we all about information flow, let me be the first one to welcome you to Tech Zone with Paul Amadeus Lane. Let's talk tech, cause technology changing the game. It's all good in the hood, it's everywhere. Now let's get to the show, cause we live on air, yeah.
Welcome to the Tech Zone. How are you? I am Paul Amadeus Lane. So happy to have you here on this edition of the Tech Zone. We have a great show in store for you. Again, we thank you. We thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. We're over at 1,000 subscribers now. Thank you so much. Let's keep it going. I am humble. I am honored to have as many people subscribe to the channel. And thank you for leaving feedback so I can, make sure I get better, make sure I can do a lot of things. But thank you. Don't forget, you can connect with me at paulonwheels.com, paulonwheels.com. That's how you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, we got you covered. On this show today, we're going to be joined by Emmy Award-winning investigating journalist. Yes, let me say it again. Emmy Award-winning investigative journalist Chris Hansen. Yes, from To Catch a Predator. He has a new show now, Crime Watch Daily. We're going to be talking about how technology is helping bring ones to justice. And remember, Chris was doing this back when AOL Instant Messenger, Catch a Predator. Chris is going to be joining me in the third segment of the show. For you businesses out there, our marketers out there, we know when it comes to direct mailing, that was something that we used to use a lot when it comes to marketing businesses. Is there a way that you can marry digital and direct mail together? Well, in the second segment of our show, we're going to be talking to a CEO of a company that's doing just that. You don't want to miss that. But to start things off, I had an opportunity to talk to our great friend, Claudia Barbiero from LiveU. Remember, we had her on earlier in the year about the Olympics in Rio and how their company was doing a lot of streaming coverage. Well, they are doing something for the election this year. Had an opportunity to sit down and talk to Claudia, and I hope you enjoy our discussion. If you've been watching the election and covering the election, it's been said that this election season is none like any other we've seen in U.S. history. A lot of things going on. And no doubt, I believe, in my opinion, that this will be the most watched election in world history, not just U.S. history. I believe in world history. And our next guest is talking about the innovation that our company is doing to make sure that the coverage can be seen throughout the globe. We welcome back to the show the beautiful Claudia Barbiero, Marketing Director from LiveU. Claudia, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Paul.
Claudia, welcome back. Last time we spoke, we talked about the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. Have you recuperated from that yet, Claudia?
We barely had time to. As soon as we came back, it was preparing for the debates for the elections, and it's been nonstop since then. Between setting up and being on site for the debate coverage, but also all the ins and outs going on around the election. Like you said, it is truly center stage on a global perspective for reporters, journalists, and media outlets around the globe.
And for some of our viewers and listeners who were not able to listen to the first interview we did, why don't you give a brief background of LiveU, and then we'll definitely get into our discussion about the coverage for the presidential nomination, not nomination, sure, but the presidential election coming up.
The election, yeah.
Yes.
So, really briefly, about 10 years ago, there was no other solution if you wanted to go live from a remote location unless you had a large satellite truck hookup, which meant you would deploy a truck with a satellite link up, and that would be hard cabled to your camera. And your reporter, wherever they were located, would have to be tied to that satellite uplink in order to go live. Now, things have changed dramatically, but even 10 years ago, the advent of cellular networks and the increased IP bandwidth allowed some very smart people at our company to figure out a way to bond multiple wireless networks together in order to have enough robust connection to essentially send that live video anywhere in the world without that hardline connection. Over the years, that technology has gotten better. The cellular networks have gotten better. The products have gotten smaller and smaller. And now our technology is basically with every major broadcaster, but also in most online news and entertainment outlets, because it allows them to basically hop on a plane with any type of camera and go live, whether it's for broadcast TV or online from anywhere in the world. And so when we talked before about the Olympics, there was a world stage basically in Rio where you had people from all around the globe wanting to broadcast live and in real time from in and around all the different Olympic venues. And this election season has proven to be the same, if not even more out of control. Let's say the number of journalists and media organizations that have flocked to the U.S. since Cleveland and Philadelphia for the conventions, to recently all the different locations for the debates, and now descending upon where the candidates will be located on election night. Everyone's looking to go mobile and to go live wherever and whenever they can to get the best 360-degree coverage of this election season.
And Claudia, when we look where we're at in the broadcast technology field today, it seems that we wouldn't have been able to pull this off 10 years ago, but now we're able to pull this off. What does this do for the listener, the viewer out there, to have this type of technology accessible for them? What does it mean for them?
Well, it does put the ability to do high quality live broadcasting literally in the palm of everyone's hands. You know, we hear a little bit about in the industry about the democratization of television, meaning you no longer have to have this large infrastructure and be a major broadcast provider, that there's a lot more specialty and focused online news organizations that have their own perspective that are now able to compete in terms of quality and bring their content to people at home, where in the past it would have been something maybe pre-recorded, so it's not as newsworthy, let's say, or it took too long to get that online and to your audience, where now people can simply be one of your Facebook fans and be instantly alerted when you're about to go live. So for things like at the recent debates, when there's an interesting protest or demonstration going on, anyone of any size is able to immediately run right into the thick of it and share their perspective and share that news with their audience back at home. Taken a step further outside of the breaking news environment, now that means anyone can share things that when they're happening live with anyone around the globe through any online video provider. So think about it in terms of even a wedding, and people back home in India aren't in New York City for the wedding, but they get to at least log on and see it while it's happening. So it's the whole spectrum that now this high quality content acquisition can be in the palm of everyone's hands.
And Claudia, when we look at what's going to happen on election night, to pull this off, what is your team doing? Because because we're going to see the finished product, but when we look at kind of like what's going on, what are you guys doing behind the scenes to make this happen?
Well, it's already underway. It's actually quite hectic at our offices and in our facilities right now. We had over 300 units that were deployed at the Olympics, and as you can imagine, those units needed to be configured to work properly in Rio, so using the right cellular networks and capture that bandwidth. Those units have now come back and are all being reconfigured and sent out. We've got well over 150 international news organizations that when they arrive here are actually renting a localized field unit. And when I say unit, it's one of these units back here. It's either this backpack unit or this smaller belt loop. There are cellular SIMs inside these units that need to be localized for the best service, the best reception, and the best data for whatever local region. So we've got units that are being turned around and shipped out on a daily basis because members of the press are arriving every day. What that means is they can simply send their journalist or their reporter and use a local camera operator and a localized unit. In addition to that, though, as you can imagine, whether it's people using satellite, using field units like these that are bonding Wi-Fi and cellular, or people using their cell phones or other devices, the bandwidth can get congested on an evening such as election night, where there is a large density of reporters in one area all trying to go live at the same time. So what we're actually doing right now is setting up and finalizing our plans for both on-site support, where both of the candidates will be located on election night, but we also work with the facilities to set up dedicated Wi-Fi networks so that our customers can actually have an additional link to bond with. So it's not just one connection, and if that fails, there are multiple cellular connections that are being bonded together, and then we can add a dedicated Wi-Fi connection for those customers to create an even stronger, more robust. So let's say one of the cell carriers goes crazy or haywire because everyone's using that network, their video stream will still go through because of our equipment will dynamically adapt to the strongest signal that's available.
Now, Claudia, does the equipment kind of, I guess, connect with, let's say if somebody's using some editing software, kind of like a live stream where they actually can switch the cameras and things like that. So do they actually hook up the LiveU to that computer, or how does that work?
There's multiple different workflows that you can have depending on what's needed. There are some customers, especially in events like this, that are actually setting up remote production. So they actually have a production studio right there on site with their switcher. Well, they'll feed the different camera feeds into, be able to put their graphics on, and then broadcast out. And they may be using our products in a couple ways, meaning have our product connected to the camera that's out in the field and use that to wirelessly send the video feed to their switcher. They may also have another one of our units on the other end. So after they've put together their two camera and camera picture-in-picture shoot with the reporter in one location and the person being interviewed on site in their little stand-up location, use our technology to then broadcast it out. Or if there's people who are actually using our technology, and this is primarily what the broadcasters are doing, is they've got a cameraman or woman with the field unit that is capturing the content, and they're wirelessly sending that back to their home studio and taking that signal in, that video feed in, and pulling it into part of their broadcast so that the hosts that are in studio on camera can cut back and forth to the live content being acquired from, let's say, the Javits Center where Hillary Clinton will be located on election day. There's a variety of different ways. Yeah, it actually can be used, and multiple units can be used if this is, let's say that we've got camera people that are going to be spread all around an environment. So to give you a great example of that, the most recent large-scale election outside of this one was the UK general election a few years ago. One of the largest broadcasters, Sky News, actually had over 80 LiveU units. And what they did was they deployed each one to the different polling stations. So they could have a reporter there locally being able to interview and capture what was happening as voters were coming in and out. And they were able to live share that feed simultaneously while they were also on air with their anchors back in studio. And they could cut back and forth to different polling stations or actually share multiple feeds at the same time. And we believe this year will be no different, that there'll be quite a number of people wanting that 360-degree coverage, capturing both what's happening at the polling stations, what's happening in DC, what's happening at campaign headquarters. And it'll be interesting to see how people utilize the technology as part of their workflow.
And Claudia, if you can use your Jedi powers, how many people do you think are going to tune in to this election? Any thoughts? That's
going to be the $1 million question for advertisers, right? When you look at the first debate and how they were projecting Super Bowl type viewership for that debate, I think we can safely assume that the majority of not just Americans, but people around the globe are going to be glued to their television sets, their iPads, their computers, come poll close time to see what that countdown really comes in as. I can't guess, but I will tell you by the sheer volume of field units that we have deployed out and that we're anticipating sending out there, there's going to be so many news organizations and entertainment outlets covering it. I think everyone's expecting this to be the top news story, at least of the day, and that evening.
And when is like the cutoff to get a field unit? Because someone may be watching this and viewing this and like, you know what? I want to make sure I get my unit for election day. The ones in the media. When is the cutoff, Claudia? Because, sometimes in media, we get kind of lax sometimes.
No, we know. And this one's no stranger to last minute planning. Let's put it that way. We're within the 2-week mark. We have units available. It really depends on where the location needs to be. If it is the East Coast of the United States, we can deploy that very, very quickly. So we still have availability. And then in terms of on-site Wi-Fi at where both candidates will be located, that is something that our broadcasters can sign on for on-site right then and there. That's not a problem at all. So we have LiveU personnel on site. We have LiveU personnel that will actually be deployed also in Washington, D.C. And we also have our team that's based out of New Jersey. So a phone call, an email, and we can get you together and set to go for Election Day.
Awesome. They said that this election season is like no other. The coverage is going to be like no other, too, because Claudia and her team are definitely going to make sure that we are able to see what's going on with this technology, and it is amazing. Claudia, before we let you go, is there anything else that you didn't get a chance to articulate that you'd like to tell everyone now?
No, well, I would just encourage everyone, if they are curious about some of the behind-the-scenes aspects to it, feel free to follow us on Twitter or Facebook. We typically try to share kind of an inside peek at what it looks like from a broadcaster's perspective at these types of events. And we'll take pictures and videos and share what the major broadcasters are doing, but also, smaller online news outlets from Norway are doing to bring that news back home to their audience.
Awesome, Claudia. It's been awesome speaking to you again, and hopefully we'll chat real soon. We know CES is coming up, and we're looking forward to that coverage too. And until next time, take care of yourself, and do me one more favor. Why don't you give that information out there again, how ones can connect with LiveU?
Just simply email events@liveu.tv or follow us on Facebook and Twitter and message us there.
All right. Take care of yourself, Claudia.
Thanks so much, Paul. It was great talking to you again.
I'd like to thank the lovely and talented and smart Claudia Barbiero for joining me on this segment of the Tech Zone. When we get back, we're going to talk about the marrying of direct mail with digital and how technology is helping ones out there meet the challenge when it comes to marketing their goods, getting the word out about their company. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back here on the Tech Zone. I am Paul Amadeus Lane. Sean, get me off this crazy thing. We'll be back in about 2 and 2. Take care.